First, one matter of very short business. I think today's meeting probably will last till 6:15, 6:20, something like that. It's on that order. People have other commitments. This is the 9th and final meeting of genuinely one of the more fascinating task forces I've ever been on or participated with. As we all know, it grew out of what unmistakably is the darkest night in this agent's history, the tragedy of April 24th. David, Darla, your participation with us has been very, very hard for you, extraordinarily beneficial for us personally and on behalf of the task force. I thank you each very, very much for it. We have a wide range of views on the task force and a wide range of experience and background. The first part of tonight's meeting will be to summarize 4 major areas. In each of those areas, one member of the task force will take the lead in doing that. For me, for what can be a very complex subject, safety and service excellence, I think the recommendations, Neil, that we make to you tonight are astoundingly clear. They're about a cultural transformation. They, to mince no words, are about looking at safety in a very different way, not as a priority, but as a value. I will say with unmistakable certainty, there are 2 things when we look back that we will find worked. One is that your leadership was unmistakably clear and full of passion. It will be, and I will say to you as a friend, without it, nothing will work. And the second part is 15 or 1,600 motivated operators. Shirley Carter and Greg Butler simply being representative of those caring, thoughtful people on the front line who have the responsibility of literally meeting you and carrying out that ethic of safety is more important than anything else we do. I think you'll have help from throughout the agency. You'll have help if you want it from this task force in a continuing way. You asked us to come and make recommendations to you. Roger, let's begin with you and some comments on the first of our recommendations having to do with TriMet culture.
All right. Josh suggested 5 minutes, so I'll knock over with 2.5 minutes of silence. This is a little bit of a mushy topic, but in many ways it's the most fundamental topic that we dealt with in these discussions. One recommendation that is very clear, and frankly we borrowed from UPS here, one of our colleagues who's not here tonight, helped us immensely with this. And that recommendation is to make safety a part of the culture commitment at TriMet. And those are just so many words, but fundamentally I think where we're trying to head with that is to say that everything that happens in this place has to be based upon a first consideration of safety for customers, riders, people outside the vehicles, anyone who's a stakeholder to TriMet. And in the end, if it's done successfully, at least speaking for myself, I would think TriMet ought to be able to say we have a 0 failure policy. We may not achieve it all the time, but the objective is to make this enterprise the safest, highest performing, customer service driven transit system anywhere, period. Again, so many words. There are questions about how you do that. One first important step is to define and put in place the tone at the top. And personally, I have no concern about that because I think his heart and mind are exactly where they need to be in that respect. But he's the one who can most influence the board, the employees, anybody else around this place who has to believe that safety is the issue. it is a philosophical commitment, hence it's a little soft, but you got to start there. If you don't do that first, you can't do the stuff that follows. Secondly, and I begin to weave a lot of my own commentary here. My colleagues often went to sleep when I talk, but hopefully I keep you awake for a minute. My view is that one of the best ways to get at this, and it's not the only way, is to empower the people and give them those in TriMet who actually have contact with the customers. And that takes me very quickly to those 12 or 1,400 operators. They're the folks that deal with people, good, bad, and otherwise. They face all the difficulty inherent in the jobs they do. If there's an accident, they're the first one looked at, rightfully so. And therefore, they need to be given special attention to make them really effective in terms of understanding the commitment to safety and how to deliver on it. And we'll have more talk about somebody here, I think, is going to speak to some of the organizational concepts about how we might get to that. But there has to be a vision set for safety and customer service, and the belief is that we aren't talking about safety in the traditional way that industry, at least as I know it, talks about, which is a person and a program and a bunch of books on the shelf and a periodic meeting. This is about how you get the people that actually deliver the service wired into the belief that this is the first issue we have to satisfy. And it's a very delicate, difficult process. For those of you who don't know, we did have, in addition to some input from UPS, we had a very informative meeting with a woman from Schwab trying to understand the basics of how they instill a culture of customer service, everything's about safety in their people. And I bet you everybody in the room has experienced it. And we probably react to Schwab in the way that we collectively would like to see everyone react to TriMet. That's kind of where that goes. So you hire right, you train right, you lead right, you organize right, which in my humble opinion is smaller, self-directed teams of people that can impact what they do and how they do it, as opposed to having it dictated to them. You reward right, so that there's some benefit for them in doing what we're asking them to do. And a lot of it's going to be, it's not monetary reward in a system like this, it's the satisfaction of doing the right job the right way. So, I'm wandering on you a bit, but wrapped up in all of this is a commitment to achieving world-class customer service. This place has to be recognized as the best there is, and with that, if they can achieve it, will come safety. How would you measure that? How do you think about it? I scribbled down some thoughts. We want to make TriMet a right of choice, not one of necessity. That's not a new phrase, but it's a good way to express what we're trying to achieve. We want a TriMet vehicle, this is Tom's good thinking, to be a safe haven for children that are in trouble. If they can't find a policeman, find a vehicle and get in it. It'll be a safe place for safe thing. The service has to be timely and convenient. It means it's got to work. It's got to do what it's been put in place to achieve. Can't have bad attitudes. They've let us up a couple times on the attitude, I think we should phrase it. And in any organization, that's true. You can't have people meeting the public, dealing with the public that are unhappy, growly, not concerned with the customer's welfare. That piece of it has to be at the best, highest level. And then finally, in order to do that, to be a bit repetitive, my view, and I think my colleagues shared it, was generally, in order to get that done, you have to focus on the folks that have customer contact. It's not about the guys in suits at Center Street. It's about the people in the blue shirts that see you when you walk through the door of that thing. The guys that are pulling the levers, turning the turn signals on and off, looking out the windows, watching their mirrors, talking to people when they come in, dealing with frustrating situations, of which there are many. So in order to get at that, it's a little bit theoretical, but this is where I would push Neil to go, and I hope to talk to him after this thing is over. There is an opportunity here to say, all right, operators, you are the focus of this effort. If we're going to create the right culture, it's going to be in your hearts and your minds, and we're going to do everything we can to make that positive. It could be anything from taking these people, many of whom are frankly in sedentary jobs and don't have adequate opportunity to take care of themselves physically. They sit behind a wheel in a high-stress job situation many hours a day. We could do some things with them in terms of health and fitness. We can help them with continuing education. We can sure as hell train them the way they need to be trained to be effective in customer service. And to me, those are the down where the, use the phrase, rubber meets the road in this whole proposition. If you don't get there and do that, nothing will change. And I know there's some skepticism in the audience, at least one, about whether anything will come from this other than a report. But as I told that person, as far as I'm concerned personally, I think I and we would like more contact with Neil to really get into some of this and talk about whether or not it can work for him as the leader. He has to be able to do it. We can't, I mean, we're not total experts here. We can recommend it, help. But make sure you understand the concepts we're trying to get at, Neil, and hopefully have that lead to real action plans to get us where we want to go. So in 10 years, you'll look up and the world says, you know, TriMet's got one of the best multimodal systems in the world. It was built on time, on schedule. Boy, is it ever slick. Customers love it. That's it.
Arthur, thank you.